Hey, what's up guys? How's it going? This is Furgie here, and today I'm bringing you guys an Elder Scrolls Online video. I'm sure a lot of you have heard of this game, but at release and during the beta it had some pretty bad reviews, and people were kind of saying a lot of negative things about it. It was very buggy, and there were problems, very major problems with it that kind of ruined progression and kind of ruined experience for a lot of people, but I'm playing this 2-3 months after release now, and all of those problems are fixed. You might see a slight bug here and there, but there's really not too many problems, especially for an MMO. It's done a lot better, so if you've kind of dropped the game and you're seeing this now, I suggest you go back at it, or if you haven't played it before. This game is a lot of fun, especially if you're into MMOs, etc. So today I'm going to be bringing you guys a class build for leveling a Nightblade, and Nightblade is one of the 4 classes in the game. If you haven't played this, classes are very customizable. This is one of the hundreds of builds you can do playing a night build. There's so many different things you can do. You can use so many different kinds of weapons with any class, different kinds of armor. It just kind of depends on how you want to play and how you want to build your character. So for me, I'm mainly focusing on dual wielding and using a bow with this build. You kind of have a secondary and a primary weapon setup with different skills, etc. So to start off here, every time you level up you get an attribute point to put into health, magic, or stamina. Magic is like a mana pool. Stamina is for sprinting, sneaking, avoiding attacks, and other kinds of attacks with your weapons primarily. But ignoring this I would take off a little bit more health if I had the option to. You can reset these for a pretty hefty amount of gold, so I will do that eventually, but I would take off a little more health and prioritize a little bit more magicka, and probably leave stamina where it is, maybe a little higher, because I have so much stamina recovery at this point. But for now I like it where it is. I have a little less health and magic and stamina, which is good. I have an overcharged amount of stamina recovery, so it's harder to get up, but 70 is very solid, and 57 is actually really good for magicka too. Now with this build I'm mainly focusing on critical strike, and critical in this game it's kind of the same as most other games where you kind of do double damage, except it's not exactly double. It's just a huge increased amount of damage. So it's not necessarily double, but you can actually increase the damage that your criticals will do, along with the ability to increase the chance of critting. So my Mundus Stone, which is something you can find out in the world, is critical hit chance increase. Now I have a 5% increase to this that you're not seeing right now. It's just a visual thing. I'm pretty sure it's actually working. You just can't see it right there. So I'm actually closer to 50, and soon here I'll be able to get to about 65, hopefully. I got to tweak a couple things with my weapons and armor, etc., and I'll be able to get even more. So real quick here, we'll look at my gear. Crafting in this game plays a very large role. I've crafted all of this gear besides the jewelry. I've made all the weapons and all the armor, and they're all of blue quality, which is the same as other MMOs. It's like rare-ish. There's also epic and legendary afterwards, but it's a lot harder and a lot more expensive. You can put stat bonuses on your pieces of gear, and you can also enchant them. I have all of mine for more stamina and magicka, just for more increased damage and a bigger pool. And my weapons here, I've got fire damage, and I'll tell you why here pretty soon. But my set bonuses that I'm running are Night Silence and Ashen Grip. I've got 5 pieces of Night Silence, which gives me 5% weapon critical, and the 3 piece is a 220% sneak speed increase, which is also very nice, because I'm sneaking around and being invisible quite a bit. Now for the weapons, and for one of my belts here, I've got Ashen Grip, which the 3 piece is a 10% chance to breathe fire for 26 damage. Happens every 4 seconds, and to be honest, I think it procs a lot. It procs a lot more than 10% of the time, so it's going to be going up almost every 4 seconds. For me at least. They might lower it, who knows, but it's very good. And also being a dark elf, that increases my damage with fire type moves, so I'm going to actually be doing bonus damage. If you like how this set looks, I just made this is level 44. I've got a wood elf head and shoulders, a red guard belt, and everything else is dark elf. So it's pretty nice looking, that gold and black, and I'll probably keep running this in the future. So we've gone over my stats and my gear. Let's get into the actual build. So we'll start off with my dual wield bar here, and for dual wield, my class trees, I mainly focus on assassination and shadow for the dual wield bar. In Assassination, I'm using Killer's Blade, which is my main execute. I want to say the number is about 25% where you want to use this, and also when you morph it, you get 18% max health replenished every time you kill somebody with it. It's very helpful, and you can pretty much one-hit anything below 25% health, give or take maybe a couple very powerful bosses. My next move is Deathstroke, morph to Incapacitating Strike. It doesn't do a lot of damage for an ultimate, but it doesn't cost very much ultimate, the ultimate power. So you get it quite a bit. You can use it multiple times in an engagement, and it also stuns the enemy for almost 5 seconds, which is a very long time if they have more health than you. So it's an emergency situation kind of thing as well. And if you don't use it as much, like whenever it comes up, you can see there it increases up to 275% more damage, which is huge. So this is a very good ultimate. I use it quite a bit. I would mainly recommend it for melee-based builds because it only has a range of 5 meters. So these are the only 2 moves I'm running at the moment. I have taken Lotus Fan and leveled it up. It is a AoE kind of dash. It's like a charge AoE bleed snare. That's a mouthful, and it's not bad. It does cost a lot of magicka, but I do prefer Steel Tornado, and I'll talk about that in a minute. Now for the passives, you want to get all your passives in every tree, but primarily the most important ones on this one are for 3% crit for each assassination ability. Right now I've got 6, obviously I could grab 9 if I put on Lotus Fan. And then Hemorrhage increases your critical strike damage by 5%. I'll be able to get that up to 10 pretty soon. And these other ones just increase weapon and spell damage while invisible or stealthed. Killing an enemy with an assassination ability restores magicka, etc. So my next moves here are in Shadow Tree. For Shadow, I'm using Shadowy Disguise and Surprise Attack. Shadowy Disguise is an invisibility move that you can actually continue spamming before it expires to stay invisible for 15 plus seconds, so you can sneak past huge packs of mobs, go all the way through a dungeon, and even get to the boss without killing anything. So that's very nice. And also while you're in it, if you morph it, you have 100% critical strike rating. So if you stealth or use invisibility and then use Deathstroke, you can pretty much one-hit anything at max health. It's very, very powerful. And also if you synergize this with Veiled Strike, Surprise Attack, while stealth, it will set them off balance for 4.3 seconds and reduce their armor for 16. So that's a very good synergy kind of thing going right there. And then you can follow up this Veiled Strike with a heavy attack and then rapid strikes, etc. Really get some heavy damage on, and you won't be taking hardly any at all because they'll be off balance or stunned, or whatever. So that kind of discusses Veiled Strike as well. It does a lot of damage by itself straight up, so it's a good magicka spam. Now the ideal passives here are Shadow Barrier, increases armor by 1500 when coming out of stealth or invisibility. That's very nice if you're going to be jumping into a big pack with AoE and taking all the aggro, or if you just want to stay alive. You can use it in offensive and defensive ways. And then there's one that increases the duration, so I'll probably be able to get that up to a 3-second flat duration pretty soon. Now for weapon, I'm about to max this to level 50, but the 2 moves I'm running on this are Rapid Strikes and Steel Tornado. Twin Slashes is very good. You can get it right off the bat, and it's a very heavy bleed. You can put on multiple enemies, and it doesn't cost hardly any stamina. I'm not using it anymore, and the morphs are pretty good, but I've decided that Rapid Strikes and Steel Tornado just works out a little better. Now Rapid Strikes hits 6 times. You can see it hits 63 times 5 and then 177. I crit this quite a bit, and sometimes you can even crit all 6 of them, and that's a lot of damage. And with some of my passives here, I do an increased damage with these moves while people are at low health. So a lot of my moves focus on executing kind of things, so I can take people down at low health very quickly, but I also do a lot of damage when they have health above that. I also get a pretty big attack speed increase, so I can kind of spam a light attack or something like that. Steel Tornado is very good. It not only does it do 95 damage to everybody within 13 meters, which is huge, it also does an insane amount of damage to people are below maybe, I think it's 30% health or something like that. So you'll be able to kill anybody, any regular ad with this when they're below 30% health. Now with Slaughter here, you're going to be able to do even more damage when they're below 20%. You can go ahead and take them down. Now this is kind of where we get into a very customizable part of this build. If you take Twin Blade and Blunt, which obviously you should, you can either choose to use axes and do bleed damage, you can do maces and swords for more straight up damage, or you can take daggers and do more critical. Obviously I'm running daggers, and when you increase it you can get up to even 10% if you're using 2 daggers. So that's a lot of critical, and it helps out quite a bit in that regard. Now we'll go to the bow bar real quick and discuss that. Now with bow, I'm mostly using siphoning. I like this being a single target bleed kind of thing. So Swallow Soul is my first move. It's a bleed, and also well, it's not a bleed, but it's a dot. It's a magical tick, and it heals you for 25% of the damage inflicted every 2 seconds for almost 11 seconds. You also get 9% more healing increased from any outside sources. So if you're doing this with a party and you have a healer, you're going to be getting more healing, taking less damage, etc., and it's going to help you out a lot. It does cost a lot of magicka along with my other moves, but so if you're running this, you should probably prioritize magicka a little bit more, but I'll get into that in a second. Alphaic Wraith I'm actually going to be getting rid of, but if there's 2+ targets, you can actually stun one of them for 12 seconds, which is long enough to kill other targets, and it's really good crowd control if you do need it, and it also is a large AoE blast kind of thing when it expires. Also a lot of magicka. Crippling Grasp is a permanent move on my bar. It siphons movement speed from target and gives it to you, so it makes you faster, it makes them slower. It stuns them for a second and a half on impact, and it's another dot, so it's a lot of damage going on that you can put on a lot of targets. Unfortunately, if you spam these on 3+ targets, you will be out of magicka, because 250 and 300 magicka is a lot at this point, and obviously it scales to get even higher. My third move from siphoning is the ultimate Soul Tether. It does a lot of damage for an ultimate, although it may cost a little bit more. It stuns for 4.5 seconds, and the closest enemy to you is tethered, and you absorb their health. And also, people in a group with you or around you can use synergy moves to steal even more health. So it's a very good ultimate. It has a melee range kind of thing, so if you're getting swarmed, it's very good to use. But you can kind of keep people away from you here with Crippling Grasp and Magnum Shot, which I'll talk about in a second. So if we get to the bow, my very first move here is Poison Injection. It's another poison bleed kind of thing. It does decent damage, and it does even more damage when they're under 35% health. So if you can get all 3 of these on a target at one time, it's very nice, and you can usually even have it on 2, because this one lasts for 8 seconds, this one lasts for 10 seconds, and this one lasts for almost 11 seconds. So 8 seconds being the minimum time to have all your dots on at once is very nice. My second move here is Magnum Shot. You can kind of ignore Volley. I wouldn't suggest that. It's not great AoE, especially since I'm focusing on single target with this build, single target and CC. Magnum Shot will knock enemies away from you, and when you morph it, it will also knock you back. So you're setting a 12% meter, or not a 12%, a 12 meter distance between yourself and your enemy, and it also stuns them for 5 seconds. Well, disorient. Stuns, disorients, incapacitations are all the exact same thing pretty much. It just may affect different enemies depending on how powerful they are. So that's very good. The negative thing about the stun is if you're running this dot build, if a dot ticks when it's disoriented, you will lose the disorient. But it's still very good to set a distance between yourself and your enemies. Now the last move I'll be taking here to replace my Alphaic Wraith is Snipe. And Snipe is one of the hardest hitting moves in the game. It does cost quite a bit of stamina, but I've got a very good stamina regen, so I can possibly spam this maybe 4 or 5 times before I'm even out. And at that point, if anything has more health than 400 times 5, it's usually a boss. So this is going to be a very good move to use. Once I have all my dots on a target and I'm at a distance with them, I can just spam Snipe, so that's going to be really nice. Now the passives here are not as good as some other trees. There is some weapon critical with bow equipped, so that's pretty helpful. And then the last one increases movement speed after roll dodging, and that's pretty good as well. There's some 6% bonus damage, etc. The bows are pretty nice to use. They're a lot of fun. I like using a bow. It feels a lot like Skyrim. So now that we've gone over the skill trees and everything, I'll kind of get into the armor. Now I'm running all medium armor for a couple reasons, but most people will run one light, one heavy, and then all medium to level up the trees. But leveling, I've wanted to focus on getting all the bonuses, as many as possible, from these trees. So I get 21% crit from wearing all medium, 3 per piece. I get 28% stamina recovery and 14% reduced cost of stamina abilities. So that's very nice. It really lowers the amount of stamina I have to use, and I also get it back faster. Improved sneak, I've got up to a 49% sneak decrease. I pretty much never run out of stamina while sneaking. It's very nice, and if you throw in a shadowy disguise to stay invisible at the same time, it's going to be very hard to detect you even in PvP. Now agility increases your attack speed by 10%. That's very nice if you're spamming your light attack or your heavy attack, etc. Obviously that is more helpful with the dual wield build and the bow. And then athletics increases your sprint speed. I'm very fast, and it also reduces the cost of roll dodge. Roll dodge is kind of alien to some people because this game has more of an interactive, non-spammy combat system. So if you're standing there spamming moves, you can't just really strafe a foot to the left to get out of damage. You kind of have to be actively paying attention and sometimes even doing less damage to keep yourself from dying. So those are all my medium armor bonuses. Like I said a minute ago, I suggest you get all the passives and all your trees as soon as you can. As soon as you know what moves you want and where you want to put them, you need to do so. Now, World, Guild, and Alliance War. Alliance War is PvP, so I don't worry about that much yet. But two things I want to point out are Persuasive Will and Intimidating Presence from Fighters Guild and Mages Guild skill lines. I don't have any other moves except for these, and these are passives that will bring up alternate trees and conversations to make things much easier on you, like make quests shorter, make them easier, etc. So I suggest you take these as soon as possible, and you'll really notice the difference while questing and while leveling. Now, as a Dark Elf, I'm mainly dual wield and fire based, so I do have that dual wield bonus, which I'm taking advantage of, and I have more magic and stamina. That's pretty common, but then I have a huge flame resistance and a lot more flame damage. I don't even have the flame damage max yet, and it's already 5%. Now, if you're going to play a vampire, some of you will know the vampires take a lot of fire damage, so a Dark Elf is very good to play if you're choosing to be a vampire, because 1300 flame resist is huge. You will hardly notice the difference, and you'll be able to stay alive a lot easier. And then obviously the flame damage is helpful. With my daggers here, I've got fiery breath and the flame enchants to do even more damage. Now that we've gone through racials, I'll quickly touch on crafting, because crafting plays a huge role in this game. I've crafted all my gear all the way up, and I usually don't put on drops. Even though drops are pretty good, I'll use them to further improve my crafting abilities and all my trees. So I have my clothing pretty high, and I have every skill here except for Keen Eye, because that's mainly for light armor crafting. But all of these passes will help you out quite a bit, make things easier, allow you to spend less money and waste less time. I've got a few things in blacksmithing for my daggers, and then in woodworking I haven't done much for the bow, but I will get to that. I have an epic bow right now from the end of the Fighters Guild quest line, so it's very powerful, and I'm going to be holding on to that for a while. But crafting is very important. Also alchemy and provisioning for your food and your potions. They do more than you would think. They keep you alive at times, and they're big lifesavers. So I suggest really paying attention to your crafting. But one last thing I want to say is to kind of play this however you want. This is just kind of a suggestion. You can work with this build, tweak it, add moves, take away moves, do whatever, wear different kinds of armor. It doesn't matter. It's however you want to play the game. So there's a lot of different things you can play just with the Nightblade. So that's about all I've got at this point, guys. I am level 44, as you can see right now, so maybe when I hit level 50 or get a little bit higher when I've made a few bigger changes, I'll be posting another build video once I've become a little experienced in the veteran levels, and I may even be putting out some other class videos for Sorcerer or maybe Dragon Knight once I level those up a little bit. But this is just an experiment. I hope you guys enjoy this. I hope it kind of inspires some people to play the game, because it's a lot of fun. And thank you guys for watching. I will see you next time.